The 2022 NBA Draft features some solid talent from the wing position. We've already taken a look at media including Ochai Agbaji, Malachi Branham, Dyson Daniels, and more, but one prospect that appears to be rising up draft boards recently is Santa Clara guard Jalen Williams. And when evaluating this dude, the first thing that pops off the screen, in my opinion, is his insane length for his size. Williams is sporting a 6'5" frame with a 7'2" wingspan. Damn. That would be an excellent addition to a Cavs team lacking in size from his current starting guards, Darius Garland and potentially Colin Sexton once more. His presence would allow JB to plug and play with some of the other guards on the roster, i.e. Karis LeVert. As much as I harp on pick and roll sets being an essential part of the Cavalier offense, you all should know by now that I covet players who can initiate, especially from the guard spot. And with that said, Jalen Williams can absolutely do so. He's a pretty good passer out of the pick and roll and just knows when to hit the roller in the right spot, just out of reach of defenders. Just look at his delivery on pocket passes. Some of these dimes that he's dropping require precise timing and usage of angles. Like seriously y'all, he really knows how to use the bounce pass to his advantage. And guess what, Cavs fans? Williams can throw lobs with either hand, and y'all know how important that is when playing with Jared Allen and company. And with the ball in his hands, he operates with a very controlled pace and runs the offense with a somewhat calculated demeanor. Similar to Dyson Daniels, Williams has a decent floater in his arsenal, which is often preceded by a few hostage dribbles to clear defenders out. It's tough to get a hand on it as a defender just because of how high his release point is. You really just didn't see anyone besides Darius Garland showcase this type of control over the offense as a creator, especially after Ricky Rubio went down. He displayed some pull-up potential out of the pick and roll from beyond the arc where he can knock down threes off of screens as well. I'd advise against going under screens against him just because he's liable to make you pay for it at times. The Santa Clara product can hit from mid-range out of the pick and roll too, looking like a DeMar DeRozan cloned in the process. He's also a pretty good finisher through contact as well, mostly when going to his right, and just like Dyson Daniels, he likes to finish off of 2 feet. You see a lot of head and pump fakes when he's doing this. And I'm not saying he's going to be the next James Harden or anything, but look at his ability to hit some of these step back threes. Don't let him have a mismatch against Big Y'all. Is that Chet Holmgren he just put on skates? The drive and kick game also wasn't a very big part of the Cavalier offense, with Darius Garland running the show, and that's not a slight against him, but Colin Sexton's injury really stripped away a lot of that ability from the team because he could collapse defenses with his slashing. Williams could add that element back into the offense, especially when probing the defense inside. And as mentioned before, Williams has a unique blend of size and length. His 7'2" wingspan allows him to play the role of disruptor, and he might be able to defend 1 through 3 despite being possibly undersized in regards to his height in the NBA. His long arms allow him to junk up possessions when defending the ball. He can make life difficult for ball handlers by using his length to poke at the ball and force it loose at times. He's also pretty effective as a help defender because of his ability to cover ground when needed, and he can knock the ball loose even when he isn't the primary defender. Williams can and will take the challenge of defending the perimeter mano-a-mano and has the requisite length to send shots back. And the best part about that, honestly, is that he doesn't often swipe down on defenders and keeps his hand up instead of chasing blocks. And just like we saw with Daniels, Williams can block shots from behind even if he gets beat, showcasing great recovery skills. Much has been made of his ability to match up with point guards too. This is a skill that should be very effective when he makes the leap to the NBA, as the average size of most NBA point guards is currently somewhere between 6'1" to 6'4". And if that doesn't scream potential defensive irritant when contesting shots, I don't know what will, guys. From the standpoint of the Cavs, Jalen Williams can line up at either guard spot in certain lineups and take on the tougher defensive assignment, while also providing secondary facilitation. Those long arms do more than deflect passes and disrupt though. They also make it easier for him to finish through contact and over defenders. As a 6'5" guard, he is a legitimate lob threat and can make for some fun offensive highlights playing alongside Garland. He's got a pretty effective righty scoop shot too, and he can adjust his finish midair if need be by way of his length. And I wouldn't exactly consider him Kyrie Irving level in this category, but he does have some shiftiness to him. But perhaps what has scouts and fans alike most excited is his catch and shoot potential. He showcases good form with a quick release, and the fluidity of his shot point to good mechanics. He appears to favor the right wing, but he likely will be just fine in the corners. There is a little microwave scorer element to his game as he can heat up easily after seeing a few baskets drop too. Alrighty, allow me to undo all the good I just did and poke some holes in this game now. First off, just because Williams has the potential to be a 3-and-D wing doesn't mean that he is quite there yet on the defensive end. We already know he has the length. The issue at times though is his attentiveness. Williams needs to work on being more actively engaged when defending on ball, as opponents had far too easy of a time catching him off balance. If he can get lower and into a better defensive stance, opponents may not be able to drive right past him as often. He needs to be more disciplined when down in the low post, as he has a tendency to bite on pump fakes, which we all know leave him in foul trouble at the NBA level if he was to do so. Analyzing his on-ball defense will definitely leave you excited about his ceiling as a defender, but it's clear as day that he tries a little too hard at times as he can get a little handsy and pick up unnecessary fouls. His spatial awareness needs work as well, as it's not out of the ordinary to see him get caught on screens. Williams can also be taken advantage of in the low post against bigger players in one-on-one scenarios. It's a common occurrence to see him get beat by reaching around too. Next up is his ISO scoring. Now I want you guys to think about this. Think long and hard. How many players did the Cavs actually have available last season that were capable of creating their own shot? Seriously. Outside of Darius Garland and Karis LeVert at times, absolutely nobody. Collin was probably their best before he went down, and Ricky Rubio could too, to a degree, before also going down. Adding another player who can score in ISO situations would be awesome, because you can never have too many players that can break a defense down. Let's face it, sometimes your best defense against stellar defenders is an even better offense. And with that said, Jalen Williams could one day be that type of player, but isn't quite there yet. His only true ISO go-to move is driving to his left and trying to draw fouls via contact. You cannot rely strictly upon your ability to make tough shots, and that's exactly what happens when he fails to separate from his defender and gets forced into a mid-range jumper of sorts. And if you're going to try pull-up jumpers from range, you have got to get more air under your shots. I highly doubt that if drafted, they would allow Williams to hijack possessions as a one-on-one option from day one because of these things. Last but not least, consistency will be a key factor in determining just how big of a role this young man will get early on. His 3 years at Santa Clara could probably be best described as highly inconsistent in terms of perimeter shooting, and his volume is something that the Cavs would likely want him to increase depending upon the role he'd be given. 3 attempts from range a game just isn't going to cut it in most settings. Until he becomes more of a consistent shooter, opposing teams may not treat him as a serious threat and not overcommit to defending the three-point line against him or go under screens until he makes them pay for it. Okay, now that we've taken a look at both the pros and cons of his game, the one thing that has become abundantly clear to me is that the Cavs should do everything in their power to take a look at him at 14 if he's available. Now, y'all know that I hate NBA player comps for kids this age. But with that said, I do see a little Kevin Porter Jr. to this guy's game. I mean, the scoring and the shot creation that he has at his disposal, the underlying defensive potential, the ability to play make, it's all there. And if the Cavs are lucky, they might just end up with him.